Hey guys, making this video of a installation or putting back together a Dynamite .28. I got this particular motor in a purchase I made a while back. Came in a buggy, and this motor looks in really good shape, outside of the fact that it has little pinch left. You can see right here that there's not much pinch left. I already cleaned it up and everything else, but overall the motor the parts themselves are in really good shape. So this particular motor is a RTR pull start motor. It's got 4 plus 2 is what they say. So here's the exhaust port. And then here's the transfer port. It's quite interesting, this port right here. They cut it super far in, so it actually opens up before it gets over here. So that's interesting. This is a boost port right here. Another 2 boost ports, I guess. I think this is a boost port. I think this basically helps relieve pressure from underneath the piston skirt. But here's the other transfer port, and you can see that this is factory. There's no work done to this from what it looks like, but from factory, Dynamite had this cut in real deep. Not sure how much usage this motor has, but the buggy was definitely well used. There is a little nick in the sleeve here, but you can't feel it with your finger, so don't believe that's going to cause any issues. I've ran far worse. Here is the piston. This piston is 1 oil groove. It's got holes here to lighten it up and to also relieve the pressure from underneath as it's going in the downstroke. Yeah, in the downstroke over here. So that's kind of neat for an RTR motor. The rod right here looks really beefy. It's got a nice oil passage. It's nice and tight. There's no wiggle. So these motors seem pretty strong. Very thick material, which is nice for a .28. So that's the piston and sleeve and rod. This is the crank over here. So this is a pull start crank. Definitely got to be careful. There is a little spring inside the crank pin that goes with this right here. This little pin goes in there, and then that interacts with the back plate. Well, yeah, this right here interacts with this guy. So I guess it comes in and it locks in here, and that's how you're able to spin the motor with the pull start or roto start. Spring seems to work. It definitely comes back really well. But yeah, it's something when you guys are taking these things apart. Some engines are that way. Nice little cut here. They took some material off here from the factory. It's got a little cut right here. Nothing too special here, but there's definitely quite a bit of material that can be taken off here for more airflow. So Dynamite sometimes drills holes inside or in their crank that allows for oil to go down to the or it basically helps transfer oil to the rear bearing. So for this particular model, and their .21 bump start buggy motors, they do the same thing. They have a hole in the crank itself. Instead of having like a oil passage or a cavity within the case, they drill a hole into the crank, and that's how they get enough oil into the rear bearing. There's also a hole here that allows oil to go to the rod, I imagine, on top of the rod oil passage there. Quite a big hole over here, center hole. So this is the back plate. This back plate has an O-ring over here, and it also has an O-ring inside, which is quite interesting. So it seals not on a bushing, but it seals on a O-ring, which is kind of cool. I mean, there is a bushing in there, but it's not really a bushing. It's just one whole manufactured piece with a groove for an O-ring. So that's something to watch out for with this particular motor, is that O-ring. You know, perhaps that O-ring can wear over time. Putting some silicone grease or something to help keep that O-ring nice and lubricated might be helpful. So nothing too special outside of that. This is a pretty big head. This head is pretty massive for this .3028. It's a standard plug button. It requires long reach plugs. So long reach, you know, basically stops flush with the dome. And that's what you want. So they're not standard plugs on this one. If you're running standard plugs, you're leaving a little bit of power on the table. Your compression will be a little bit less than if you had long reach plugs. This is the case. Very beefy case. Nothing too exciting internally, but bearings seem pretty solid. I didn't take them out to inspect, but they feel pretty good. So that's good. Yep. So yeah, so let's put it together. So we got the crank, right? We're gonna throw some oil. So I basically made a mixture of synthetic 2-stroke oil with WD-40. So we'll see how it goes. It's the first time using it. Yeah, it's Redline synthetic 2-stroke oil, and I chose synthetic because synthetic will not gum up in a stored setting, whereas castor will, from what I read. But then I also put WD-40 in here, so it should be good all the way around. Don't need too much oil, just enough. Just enough to cover everything so it stays nice and clean in there. I guess I should maybe show you guys the tightness of the rod and crank. I'm sending this motor to an individual that I've done deals with in the past, so this video is honestly for him. But you can see here there's absolutely no play. Maybe a little bit, but nothing crazy. I mean, my 3.3 that ran 6 gallons was worse than this to start with, and it ran for 6 gallons. So I would run this all day. It's in really good shape for what it is. The buggy was not in such good shape, but that's another story. got that in. I'll throw a little bit of oil on this. But yeah, this thing, it might run, but it definitely will run much better with a pinch, since the piston goes pretty much all the way to the top. It's pretty much ready to get repinched, but it doesn't really seem like it. Let's see here. Gotta pull this out. Alright, I'll be right back with you guys. Alright, I got this thing in. Sometimes it's difficult to align the pin. Something that I noticed with this particular motor is don't have my flashlight with me. I'll be right back. Alright, I got my flashlight now. But you guys can see the sleeve. I mean, the exhaust port in the case is tremendously much bigger than the sleeve itself. So I guarantee you there's a lot of area right there to open up the exhaust port just to match, or at least get closer to the exhaust port of the case. So that's quite interesting. Usually the sleeve is much closer to matching the case, but I guess not this one. I've never ran this motor before. I'm not really a big block guy. I guess I got buggy motors and things like that, but I haven't had a Savage or anything that required me to run these big motors. Alright, so I also checked what came out of the engine regarding the shim size, and whoever ran this motor had 0.62 millimeters of shim stack. So that's a lot. That is how many shims is that? That's a lot more than you need for 20% or even 30%, I would imagine. There's two in here, so this one's just stuck. There we go. See if I can get it out. Yep. Alright, so this is a 0.2. 0.2 and 0.2. So he ran all three together. I most likely wouldn't run that. I probably would run only a 0.2, and this doesn't really help performance. I mean, it might make your tuning window wide and maybe makes it easier to tune, but you're losing quite a bit of torque by running such a big shim stack. Alright, so I'm putting some oil in this just to make sure I don't throw anything in there dry. I think there's some that came out. Yeah, there we go. Gotta learn how to use this thing. But this is the starter shaft. It does not have much play at all in it, so yeah, it's pretty nice. Wish the small blocks were nice and tight like that. Alright, so can't forget this thing. This thing goes in, or else your back plate ain't gonna work. So that basically just goes right into the crank, like so. And then you kind of want to, I mean, I guess pushing this, it's going to basically just create pressure and once it rotates, you should technically be good. You always want to make sure this right here is on the top, this motor, and also the piston. You want the piston to be kind of up in the air, just so you don't make any contact or anything. So let's see what happens when we spin this, if it's gonna spin. There it goes. I heard a click. There it goes. See, it's spinning now. Okay, you got to be spinning the other way. Interesting. All right. Yeah, this is definitely the way. This right here. Yep. Okay. And when you're spinning it like this, naturally it's not moving this, which makes sense. It's only when you're spinning it the opposite way. Interesting. Okay. So I guess this doesn't spin when the motor is spinning. What is going on is that you have that little spring that keeps going back and forth every time it hops. I guess it works. I guess with the oil pressure as well, you know, when it's running, that probably helps the spring, or yeah, it has to. It's the only way that it'll last, I guess. Just spitballing ideas, I have no idea, honestly, but makes sense to me. Yep. So that doesn't spin the back plate at all when it's running, or yeah, so that definitely reduces wear and tear on that. It's the little spring and that little pin, I imagine, that wears before the back plate. Alright, so I didn't go over the carb on this thing. This carb is nice. It's got a really long low speed needle. It feels like it's metal. The slide, anyways, that portion is definitely metal. It seems pretty solid. It's a nice, I guess, RTR looking carb. It's 2 needle. It's got 2 O-rings, one on the bottom and one on the top. So I think that's how it goes. I'll just leave it loose for disassembly. But yeah, the shim stack being that high, it's not going to help any sort of compression or anything. These are also really nice. These bolts are massive. They're like 4mm bolts. So that's really good. Hard to strip that out. When you're mounting your head on your motor, you always kind of want to do crisscross, and you want to try to apply equal pressure between each bolt. You don't want to just tighten one down really tight and the rest, you know, come after. It just won't sit straight. Once you got them like nice and tight, it doesn't really matter at that point, but Yep, you can hear it. So when you throw a little bit of WD-40 in there, it kind of makes it. Yep. It probably would start. But it probably wouldn't run all that great. Definitely needs a pinch. But other than that, everything else looks really good. So the materials and how beefy everything is can definitely withstand more, you know, than one can withstand resizing a sleeve before other parts wear out. So sometimes other parts will wear before the sleeve wears, but for this motor it seems like the sleeve wears out a little quicker. But anyways, this is the build video of a Dynamite .28 RTR, and a little overview, and showcases a little bit of the engineering behind it. So hope you guys enjoyed. I actually forgot to tighten the spark plug, so, or the glow plug, but you can hear it. Actually, surprisingly, it's got some, this thing would actually run. Yep, even with the piston going up that far, this is some pretty strong.